We are excited to be having MSK Innovations back up again this afternoon. I'm TJ Halverson, your host. We have another great event lined up for you. We have three great companies presenting, three wonderful panelists. And before we jump in, we will give the panelists a chance to introduce themselves. We have Chris Lyons, our one and only, Robin Young, and Brian Lord. Would you each provide a quick introduction? We'll go ahead and start with Brian Lord, first time on the panel.
Hey, TJ, thanks for inviting me. Great to see you. Brian Lord here. I am one of the three partners at Flightline Partners. We do outsource corp dev work. We just launched the firm about a month ago, been at it for a couple of months before that. It actually is a rebrand of a firm that I had founded back in 2010. So I've been at this actually for 16 years. Some of you I may have crossed paths with for the last 10 years or so. I was the CEO of a company called Pristine Surgical. I rotated out of that about 6 months ago, rebranded, relaunched Flightline. And we've got 3 MBAs and a JD amongst the three of us. So we're excited about the pipeline that's developing, some of the partnerships that we've already struck, and looking forward to contributing something constructive to the industry.
Thanks for joining, Brian. Robin, quick intro.
I'm the founder of Orthopedics This Week, and actually I've started 4 companies. My first one was a packing peanut business. I invented the starch-based packing peanut. It's true. And 7 patents. So now you know. Right now, I'm starting an enterprise called the Research Cooperative, which is meant to be a cooperative for life science, cooperative association of life science researchers.
Thanks for joining.
Cool.
And Robin, you forgot to mention all the years on Wall Street as well.
I served time. I was indentured to Wall Street for 25 years, and I guess the highlight, I had many lowlights, more than I can mention, but the highlight, I did get ranked by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top 3 medical technology analysts in the United States.
Thanks for joining, Robin. And last but not least, Chris Lyons.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Chris Lyons, been in the industry now 37 years with Smith& Nephew as well as Medtronic Spine and Biologics. The last 8 years, I've been running my own business lifecycle management and merger and acquisition consulting practice called Southern Metrics. There's been a ton of success in the last 8 years, even through COVID and everything else that's been going on. We've had 3 exits so far, along with others that are lining up as we speak.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining again, Chris. Now, before we get started, everyone knows the format. Each company has 10 minutes to present, and then we open it up for about 10 minutes of Q&A. Drop your questions in the chat. Before we jump into our first presentation, just a quick note, MSK Innovations is not a broker-dealer nor an investment advisor. This venue is for informational purposes only and not to be considered investment advice. Please conduct your own due diligence prior to making any investment. And with that, we'll turn it over to Raymond at NovApproach. Raymond, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm Raymond Cloutier, the founder and CEO of NovApproach Spine. I want to tell you a story. So it was late 2019. I flew all the way over from Florida to San Diego to try to pitch an idea. Frankly, it was patented to a spinal access surgeon, high volume guy. And we had dinner, and I presented it. And he said, "Yeah, it's all right." And I'm like, "What do you mean it's all right?" He said, "Well, I could do it, but what we really need is this, something else." And I'm like, "But I came all the way over here and I made a really important decision at that point." In fact, I bet all of us almost on a daily basis make a choice between either arguing and trying to defend your position or saying, "Tell me more." And thank goodness I said, tell me more, because that was the pivot, if you will, and the foundation of NovApproach Spine. So he further explained that when you do anterior spine surgery, the patient's supine, what you're faced with is the two major vessels, the vena cava and the aorta, that run against the anterior spine. And most often, no problem. You can mobilize those, get the cage in safely, and fuse the spine. But from time to time, there are difficulties. And on top of that, in general, you could save time if you go in through an oblique corridor. The issue is generally the vessels are very difficult to mobilize in certain levels of the spine. And so he proposed that we focus on this corridor, but no implant that was available at the time could go through that corridor and provide fixation. And so what we did was, whereas all other implants can go in anteriorly and are limited to an anterior approach, every now and then you have a few implants that can go in obliquely, but none of them allow you to affix and provide standalone fixation. The NovApproach Spine solution, we call the OneLIF, does go in midline anteriorly, but we also can deliver it through an oblique corridor in multiple different trajectories. And frankly, this is just showing really 3 plus the midline, 4 out of the 15 different approach trajectories that we have available to us. And on top of that, we have line of sight fixation with the bone screws, which is really, really important and reduces risk in the OR. So from a surgeon point of view, you're looking at either a midline approach or an oblique approach from midline. And we have a special inserter that allows the surgeon to either directly put the implant in straight or cranial or caudal. And so all of these options empower surgeons. Now, this is in addition advantageous because our cage is designed so that you can place it either with the patient supine or with the patient positioned laterally for a anterior to psoas approach, which is a minimally invasive approach, sometimes called the OLIF approach, all in one cage. So it's a system, well thought out system. And we, as I said, it's called OneLIF, and we patented this versatility of multi-insertion and multi-fixation. It's been in use since mid-2022, and the surgeons love it. So, for example, Dr. Bourbon has said that this is his preferred system because it enables an incredible improvement to place the cage at difficult levels. He uses it for both primary and revision cases, and he says, I can position the OneLIF with screws from every approach, direct anterior, oblique, and even lateral. Another surgeon was limited to only L5S1, partly because his access surgeon wasn't able to do or didn't feel comfortable doing higher levels, whereas now with the OneLIF, he is able to do multi-level surgeries, reduce OR time because he doesn't have to reposition the patient. So very happy surgeons. I took another quote that I just saw, frankly, today. Tiger Buford, an expert, an industry expert, very familiar with technologies and what is moving in the orthopedic space, said, if you're developing a new product, it's very important to focus on the user experience. And so for the technology to be viable, it must demonstratively simplify the surgeon's workflow rather than add complexity. And I added that comment because there are a lot of technologies that are very flashy out there, but at the end of the day, what we're selling is an implant And what's really critical is the user interface, what the surgeon thinks and how that implant can be positioned accurately. So furthermore, I've learned that out of the 75,000 procedures that are ALIF procedures done every year, about 3,200 of them actually have to either get aborted midstream or modified with a different approach in order to avoid severe injury and death. And so the OneLIF cage is designed to reduce the probability of that. And so why that's important from a hospital point of view, certainly it's important from a patient point of view, but the hospital's OR surgery gets disrupted, the schedule, they lose revenue, there's length of stays issues and potential medical legal issues. Now, the market is huge and it's growing. In fact, it's the fastest growing fusion interbody cage segment of the spine market. Currently, it's around 487 million, going to what we estimate to be 732 million in the next 5 years. It's one of the highest prices. It is the highest price cage. And the reason it's high price is because it works so well. There's a high probability of fusion and the recovery time is faster, less invasive. So the NovApproach Spine's team has really knocked it out of the park in terms of the business development. We have grown at a compound annual growth rate of 73%. And even as recently as yesterday, our first quarter really follows that same track. So we continue to grow at a very rapid clip because of the impact that we're having on how much surgeons like what we're doing. So does this matter? Well, as Tiger Buford mentioned, simplicity and safety is super important. Procedural reliability is super important to hospitals, certainly to patients, reducing risks. From a corporate point of view, our technology is highly differentiated. In fact, the selling process, at least the front end, is relatively easy. People look at our cage and say, why hasn't somebody done that before? And made it my life easier. And we protected it so that for a potential acquirer, that would give them the advantage of a strong market position. Our team is very well experienced. It's a very efficient team, very experienced, and has had lots of a great track record. I've been in the industry for 42 years, and I can't say enough about all of them. From an investor point of view, getting in now would be a great idea, partly because there are strong valuations. And I think the one that right in the center, Integrity Orthopedics, is probably the best comparable for the size of our company compared to theirs. And they got what we estimate is about a 45 multiple, assuming they get the earn out. And Smith & Nephew acquired them. They had a technology that made life simpler and the procedure outcomes better in the sports medicine arena for shoulders. So now's the time to invest. We're already in discussions with some of the strategics. There's a strong demand. We have 2 times the number of surgeons waiting to start using our implant as our current number of customers. We're coming closer to profitability, and that reduces the risk of investor dilution. We offer 3 different options for investment, and I believe that there will be a strong ROI. So in summary, we have patents issued, FDA cleared, reimbursements, no issue. We have had an excellent track record of growth in a strongly growing market that's large. So now's your chance to either say, I'm going to argue with Raymond because I don't agree with some of the stuff he said, or you can give me a call, set up a Zoom. This is a Calendly invite, and ask me to tell you more. So I invite you to participate in the NovApproach Spine journey.
Great presentation. Thanks, Raymond. Panel questions?
You want to go, Robin?
Yeah, I'll kick it off this time. We'll just go kind of round. We'll do a round robin, so to speak. Well, I frankly, I really like this product a lot. It is a safer approach. I like the fact that it's oblique as well as anterior. I love the multiple angles that a surgeon can use. And I think, Ray, you're absolutely right. Doing something that improves the efficiency and workflow for the surgeon is just brilliant. And there's nothing else like this on the market. And you're right, the anterior approach, from every respect, it's a great approach. If you make it more simple, surgeons will do it. You've done, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you've done about 600 cases so far, I guess. Where do you see the friction in the marketplace? When you get someone who's reluctant, why are they being reluctant?
Okay, so there's two possibilities here, and I certainly would invite my commercial officer, Chris Renton, to add to what I'm going to say. But the two friction points are hospital approval process. We
Yeah,
have so many surgeons just waiting, really excited about our technology and the limitations that hospitals are placing on startup companies is super hard. So we've been as creative as possible to try to address that hurdle. Um, we focused on the surgeon experience, including passage of the implant safely. And so we have very smooth perimeter edges and a surface area in contact with the end plates that has tried and true. But there's a perception that a porous structure offers an advantage. We've not seen any issues with our current design. In fact, we have one of the largest graft volume areas with an undercut that contains the
actually,
graft. Oh,
I've
good for
had,
you. Hey, good for you.
I don't know where I found it. Somebody gave it to
Yeah,
me. I think
it
it was
is.
probably you. But isn't that, look at
Good for
that. Isn't
you.
that's a huge graph volume. You're right.
Yes. And so we have a little bit of explaining to do because most of the market is moved towards 3D printing. We chose to use the higher quality raw titanium to ensure we had the proper strength and the ability to have smooth edges. Chris, if you want to add to anything I've just said, feel free to. Chris is our commercial officer.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. In the value analysis world, I think the noise that came out of the recent Medtronic litigation, where they were more or less monopolizing, has kind of created a crack for a lot of the small players and mid-level players. So we're trying to monitor that fallout. There's been a little more reception there, but I think it's also educating the value analysis committees. You always have your generic features and benefits that everyone used to do all the time and have physician support. Then it's pivoted more into economical impacts. What levers does it pull within the institution? And then last, one thing, that Raymond didn't allude to is we're the only FDA cleared standalone for the OLIF trajectory. So we're able to get in several institutions through that education, but there are headwinds. And then at the same time, you've got a lot of people demanding time, usually of one person who, punches in at 8 and runs out the door by 4. So, those are your headwinds there. As far as the technology, I think I've seen a lot of posts recently and a lot of papers that will all revert back to it's not so much the substance, if you will, the porous, the nano this, the peak that. It still comes down to the technician. The surgeon has got to do great disc preparation, not aggressive or overly aggressive. They have to be cognizant of the bone that they're working with, the patient demographics. And that tends to lead to more of the complexities of subsidence and then leads into that future deformity aspect because you failed to do what you should have done in the beginning for that patient. So just a little more context there for you.
Thanks, Chris.
That's good. Hey, Ray, I love the story and I love the format. I really think that this is extremely unique. I love the screw angulation especially and the options, right, that are provided there because, you never know. I mean, until they're in the case and they can figure out bone quality and they can figure out best bite and all those kind of things. Um, as it relates to what your near-term plans are, because yes, everybody's dealing with the VAC committee situation across the board. Are you seeing that? Is it meeting your expectations and the times that it's taking you to get approvals, or is it way longer than what you thought it would be?
It's way longer. It's so frustrating. Now there are some rare instances, and I do credit Chris Renton with being a very effective communicator, which is so important in that process. But I am frustrated. I mean, all startups are frustrated with that. And I would say that for large companies, that our technology in their hands would be huge because they don't have that barrier. Even with the barrier, we've been able to grow quite rapidly over the last 4 years.
And I'll say my last comment, just real quick, is that it's so asinine to me, the way that this is where all the innovation and disruption happens, right here. And yet the ones that are in the way preventing it, patients can't get access to it until they do buy it. And so it's delaying progress.
Yeah, agreed. If we focus back on the investor side of this, we are poised, though, because other companies have already recognized what I think you guys have seen. And so it is an opportunity that I would love to talk to people about. I don't know if TJ, you're able to send the Calendly link on the chat, but I could get frustrated or I can get, okay, well, what else can I do to
Go get it
accomplish the
done.
result?
Yep.
Thank you, TJ.
Got it. We got time for one more quick question.
Yeah,
moving on.
good stuff. And I'll chime in our round robin fashion. Have you trademarked that, Robin, by the way? Are you the trademarker of that phrase?
It may be available.
He's forgotten more credentials than the rest of us combined, as his intro said. Love it. Question about your IP. Distinctive design, to be sure, and your IP. We know that the spine world is, shall we say, a bit litigious, and we know that incumbents have increasingly chosen, a pathway that says, infringe me now and sue me later, in terms of their strategy. So can you just maybe expand without going into, uncomfortable proprietary territory on the way you've thought about both trying to capture as much as you can with the IP protection, and then perhaps, extra credit if you've thought, and certainly we don't want to know it, but if you've thought about ways to sort of complement what you've patented and disclosed with also some trade secrets and some things as well to kind of dig an extra channel around your moat, if it were.
So spot on. And I recently did a presentation that addressed all of those. I can't elaborate. I will say we do have 2 issued patents and one that had been granted and is about to issue. I'll be doing additional continuations. I'm an engineer. I've been in product development for 42 years now. And so I was very careful, especially since this was on my dime, to put claims together that mattered. We also were very careful to avoid stepping on other IP. And then there are trade secrets, and I spared you a lot of details that I'd love to spend hours talking about. And we have presented some of those to the strategics, which are trade secrets. So I believe it's covered. I certainly did not and don't intend and don't believe we have overstepped our bounds on anybody else's IP.
Yeah, I'd be less worried about that and more, interested in what you've already discussed. I think that's a very bullish sentiment, right? Is that you've thought about not only what is the appropriate thing to disclose in a patent, but also some ways that you can build even more to say, we don't need to teach the whole world everything. We just need to teach the world the things that we've patented and some other things you can keep. And that's great to understand that that's been part of your strategic thinking. Thanks.
Just real quick, our claims would allow us to expand to disc replacements and also cervical, although I think the And so we have plenty of room with the the support in the initial disclosure to even expand beyond what we have.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Raymond. Great presentation. Thanks, Chris, for joining as well. With that, we'll move on to our next presentation from ConvertaTek, and Dan Sands. Take it away.
Okay. Seeing the screen okay?
Yep,
Yeah.
we got it.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Dan Sands, Chief Operating Officer for ConvertaTek. It's a surgeon-founded device company approaching the shoulder arthroplasty market, $1.4 billion market. It's seen little true innovation over the years, and the current standard of care, as you might know, just carries an unacceptably high complication and revision rate, in particular for the younger active patient. In that Dr. Ray Longobardi, he's on the call today, an orthopedic surgeon, has come up with a fully convertible, biomechanically tailored implant solution that is very novel and unique. So really, from a problem standpoint, it's focusing on the younger patient. There's limited choice. The option is, get an implant. If your rotator cuff is good, it might fail in 10 years, and then you're looking at a revision. If you get a revision right out of the gate, it's one that limits your activity. And I've been in this situation myself. Dr. Longobardi, he's been in it himself on the shoulder. My experience was with the hip at age 43. Went 3 years bone on bone to avoid getting an implant prematurely. Probably not the best decision I made, because it was just pain over pain and then self-medication that probably wouldn't be advised by anybody to take on. So that's really the dilemma, because these patients are told to wait. Complications of waiting take over, and if you get a revision too soon, you're just taking on challenges of activity restrictions and in a situation we're in the market where surgeons have an issue. The options on the market, look at the revision rates. We're stating 12% on anatomic and 6% on revisions, but there are some companies in the market state as high as 40%. So this situation, if you look back in the 2000s in the knee situation, similar kind of dynamic, high revision rates. There's a lot of innovation coming to market. We're kind of seeing the same opportunity with this. There's just high failure rate on the anatomic. The glenoid loosening continues to be the number one issue, polyethylene wear. And if you're active, you're just going to go about your wear, and you're most likely going to be looking at a revision sooner than later. On the reverse, similar kind of dynamic, you're just sitting there. It's a ticking clock of like, okay, how long do I have before I'm going to have to get a revision? If it's a revision on a revision, you're not looking at a very good situation. Either way, the patient has very limited options. So the solution here, basically on the anatomic, there's two designs here. Reversing that poly to put it lowers these polyethylene stresses. It's less wear, and it's replaceable. If that does wear, you've got the convertibility of simply switching out a component. The other base plate concept that this has, it's cementless. So it's one of the few cementless options, if the only one on the coming to market. So obviously that provides some long-term benefit if you're looking at a revision, and plus the convertibility on that. The metal cup and moving that, certainly has the potential to reduce complications and fewer revisions. If that rotator cuff does degrade over time, you can definitely switch into a reverse. Now, there's a lot of reverse solutions on the market, right? It's 75% of the procedures now are reverse. There's reasons for that. And it's because the anatomic solutions and that high revision rate. But again, this is pretty comparable. The unique things again about this are the universal base plate, which allows for that convertibility, and the glenosphere design with that 10-degree inferior angulation and 3 mm offset really optimizes with the patient anatomy and gives the surgeon quite a bit of flexibility intraoperatively in placing these implants. So the market here is pretty interesting. There's obviously a lot of procedures going reverse, about 3/4 of the market doing the reverse. So our opportunity is certainly improving options on the anatomic, but it's going after that younger patient that is getting reverses prematurely. So that really opens up an opportunity in this high growth market to expand the service addressable to about half the market. So we've reached out to multiple surgeons and building up our KOL team, and they love the convertible feature. They don't see anybody else on the market with anything like it. Another dynamic is just getting more anatomics, and that trend pushed back to more anatomics than just going to reverse right out of the gate. And, one of the surgeons commented, he says, hey, if I'm not doing the higher volume, this would give me higher confidence to do an anatomic versus just going right into a reverse. So our go-to-market strategy is simultaneous development of both the anatomic and the reverse. The 510K pathway for the reverse will be first to market within 2 years of the funding, and start that commercial launch. We plan to do clinical with the anatomic because of the uniqueness, so we can grab data and really build a compelling pathway here in this 4-year time frame as we tee up our distribution and key sites that will be deploying this technology, really to get to a point where in year 5 be pretty desirable in terms of an acquisition target to known sizable companies that have gaps in their portfolio. And we really truly believe the anatomic features and the competitive landscape, there's a void, there's a gap. This is unique. It's the only convertible glenoid and convertible humeral side. The ProMedica has a system, it's only in Europe. The polyethylene humeral head is certainly unique. Cementless is another factor. And we have, this will be a 2-case system. It'll be compatible with surgical planning, robotics, and covered under the current CMS guidelines. There's 2 issued patents and 16 pending, so pretty robust IP portfolio surrounding this. So we put together some of our initial go-to-market forecast, growing to a $70 million company through this time frame, clearly getting to market first with the reverse and building that pathway for the anatomic to quickly come up to speed and start grabbing market share in that space. So the funding ask right now is $2 million. You see the mix on operational spend, R&D, and go-to-market. Essentially, the year 1 is to do that simultaneous development and testing on the anatomic and reverse, get the reverse to a design freeze, get the instrumentation developed and tested, get the cadaver trials done. Year 2, essentially getting that reverse cleared and ready for commercial launch and continue that development and testing on the anatomic to push to get that into revenue in the late year 3. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Ray Longobardi. He's got personal experience, very young age, a right shoulder, anatomic. He did get some life out of that and then had to reverse, but his other shoulder went. And as you can see, within a year, he was having to do a reverse. And at that point, he had kind of resolved himself, knowing what was on the market. There had to be a better solution, and he's come up with that. So Ray is actively involved in practice, but active in really pushing to get this to market. Roy Wiley, a 35-year R&D expert. Myself, I've started and led 7 different companies, a lot in this space as well. And Chris Valoy has been a huge help on the marketing and finance in the readiness to get this to market. So high growth market, solve some major complications and revisions that are going on in the market right now. It simplifies that conversion from an anatomic to a reverse. It's protected, and opportunities with strategic. So happy to open up to any questions. I'm going to play this little video while questions start, so you can kind of see some of the functionality while we address some questions.
Thanks, Dan.
Good presentation, Dan.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Hey, good to see you, Dan.
You too, Chris.
I like what you got going on here. It's a bigger issue than people understand relative to younger patients and the need for treatment. Of course, I've got a client that I'm working with that is addressing some things in hips to fill that massive void, no pun intended, between, getting corticosteroid injections to arthroscopy to, totals. And it's just fascinating to me, the age of so many patients, and shoulders as well. No, there's no doubt about that. And so I think you're in a hot spot. I think a lot of the strategics aren't thinking enough this way. It's still sort of kind of, yes, there's shoulders, and yes, there's new shoulders. And I'll call this probably the third generation of shoulders. Maybe this is now number 4. One question I had is related to your year 1. Are you in year 1, or did year 1 start in 25?
Yeah, so this next round, we've gotten to certain points on the development. Now we need additional money to continue that development. So that's what we're currently paused on the development until we secure additional funding. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But there's been some de-risking. There's been a pre-sub meeting with the FDA, pretty clear pathway on the reverse to market. So strategically to get that in the revenue while we're continuing some of the development on the anatomic. And it's not rocket science from what we're doing here. So from a regulatory pathway, we feel pretty confident that we'll be able to get this developed and through the cycle pretty cost effectively. We've seen some past companies and learned some things, how much money can be spent in the development cycle, in the regulatory process. And I think with those lessons learned, I think this is going to be a pretty efficient process for us to get this developed into market.
That's great. Good job.
Thank you.
Robin, you go ahead.
Sorry about that. So yeah, real quick, how much of the company do you want to sell and how much are you raising in this round, by the way? And then how much of the company are you selling?
We'd like to raise $6 million on this phase, and if we need to tranche, we'll do that. But generally, in this is the first outside of the founder funding. This will be the first raise. So we'll keep the valuation sub 10 million on this to get that first money in, so that we're pretty customary and probably selling about 30% of the company or less.
And I don't know, have you done animal studies or anything just to see kind of how it's working?
There's been some mechanical testing and some
cadaver
FDA
maybe
analysis done at this point, and all the indications are looking really good.
Last question. As I look at something that's modular like this, the first thing that I think about is it's got to be more expensive. As you look at this, where does this come out price-wise with the non-modular options?
Yeah, we've had, from a cost perspective, this is going to be cost comparable and priced in the market. And we think as the anatomic comes to the market, we should be able to command a premium there based on the full functionality between the two systems and the options that gives the surgeon, interoperative. They have some issues. I mean, they've got a lot of options they can dig into and really make sure the patient is getting the best solution, because all these pre-planning, it does a great job, but it doesn't do 100%. And so when surgeons get in there and they're dealing with complex situations, this would allow them a lot of flexibility.
For sure. And Chris is absolutely right. The hot area right now, and this personalization via modularity is a real creative approach. And the designs are they look great, very compelling. In fact, you can kind of toggle back and forth between the TSA and reverse. It's really very clever. So thanks a lot.
You bet. Good to see you, Robin.
Yep.
You'd think maybe we orchestrated this because I want to just build on Robin's good questions there. So, as you go, for example, in spine towards personalization, certainly one of the benefits of that personalization sort of, push is reduced inventory costs. And that certainly is something that as you get to scale, acquirers and the incumbents really find attractive. Is that a value proposition that you would realize here too on that sort of march towards personalization with this modular approach?
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of the KOLs and their ideas about keeping that instrument set really concise and approaching the ASC market is kind of an initial pass, and trying to avoid some of the complications that Raymond was talking about on that purchase cycle. We think getting this into revenue, there's definitely opportunity, and we've had multiple conversations and vetted with several OEMs that they have gaps in their portfolio, and with the growth rate that's in this space, I think we're set in a really good situation. And if you flash forward in 2 to 3 years, I think there's going to be even more complications from those early age patients getting the reverse, unfortunately headed back to the OR to get that taken care of. So I think the dynamics and the trend and the timing are all pretty good for this.
Very good. And hi, Dan. How are you?
Hey, Brian. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, good. Any additional questions? We've got time for about one more. Okay.
No, I just want to tell you, I like it a lot. I think somebody ought to step up and fund this thing because it's got a lot of possibilities, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. We're a little bit biased here, but we vetted the market very well, and it's just.
Yeah, I love seeing the surgeon quotes in the presentation. You really anchor this thing beautifully with what does the surgeon need? What do they want?
Yeah. There's more lining up. As it's difficult trying to find but the younger surgeons, I think, are ideal for this because they're the ones that are going to be dealing with some pretty complex, situations in the years to come, and they're pretty excited about it.
That's great. It's a great time in the market. Dan, great presentation. Thanks so much for coming on. With that, we'll transition to our third and final presentation of the night from Ilya at ComeBack Mobility.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, TJ. My name is Ilya. I'm the founder and CEO of ComeBack Mobility. Implants and surgical techniques matter a lot, but after surgery, nobody controls what patients actually do at home. And that is where outcomes are still won or lost. And ComeBack Mobility turns prescribed weight bearing into guided, measured recovery. After exiting my previous startup, I became a fighter, got injured, and spent 6 months in rehabilitation and discovered a major gap in a post-op care. Orthopedic surgeons prescribe partial weight bearing, but they don't know what patients do at home because there is no objective way to measure it. So even when a fixation could tolerate early loading, surgeons often restrict weight bearing for 6 weeks or more, not because it's optimal, but because it's the only way to comply. Each year, 3.5 million Americans break a lower limb. Too much load can break fixation. Too little load can delay healing, lead to non-union and reoperation. That is why postoperative complications drive nearly $55 billion in annual loss. And many risk factors like biology and comorbidities cannot be controlled, but weight bearing and walking activity could be objectively measured and adjusted after surgery. And that's how we turn prescribed weight bearing into guided measured recovery. First, a surgeon defines a safe weight bearing range. In complex fractures, we used post-op CT-based finite element analysis to calculate what load can expedite bone callus formation without compromising fixation. Second, our app and smart crutch tips guide and measure every step in real time. Third, our AI checks compliance and reaches patients automatically. Only unresolved cases go to a physical therapist. Let's see how the product works.
The doctor prescribes a weight-bearing program per patient's needs: no load, partial load, and increasing load. The patient receives a link to the program and opens it up in the patient app. Following instructions, the patient installs the smart crutch tips and syncs them to the app via Bluetooth. After pairing the devices, the specific weight-bearing program is activated. Now it is in the patient's phone and in the smart crutch tips. Step softer. Step harder. There is no feedback when the patient is walking correctly.
This is not a prototype. This is a FDA-cleared market-ready medical device, Class 2 510(k) exempt, ISO manufactured, peer-reviewed, patented, and already helped more than 300 patients to recover faster. Dr. Rieger has no royalties, no equity, no financial relationship with us. Let's hear what he said at AOS.
You know, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I've prescribed people weight-bearing restrictions, and they ask me, you know, how do you do that? And I often tell them, I don't know. Usually what we do is say, well, go step on a bathroom scale, and you can kind of figure out how much 30 pounds is or 40 pounds is, and you know, remember that feeling and see how you do. We did an IRB-approved prospective trial. They were randomized to either receiving real-time feedback or not. In other words, the device would give them the feedback as to how they were doing on their weight bearing. What we found, anyway, was that patients receiving the real-time feedback had a 3 times greater adherence to the weight-bearing protocol that we prescribed. Even my older patients were very, very interested in the technology of this. They thought it was really cool, and they felt that, you know, they were taking part in their own care by doing this. Excellent usability scores. They felt that it was very easy to use. High patient satisfaction rating, 9.6 out of 10. And there were no safety issues with the use of the device. Precise adherence, prescribing accelerated bone healing, and risk reduction in hardware failure. You know, in conclusion, I feel that these crutch tips are not only effective, but they're safe, they're usable, and I think they can help us in our clinical practice with patients to have a very standardized approach to the way we prescribe weight bearing after fracture surgery.
We don't have to wait 2 years to generate more evidence. Through our clinical research organization in Ukraine, we are already running 3 randomized clinical trials across 16 hospitals and 31 surgeons. That gives us a fast, cost-efficient engine for adoption and reimbursement data. In tibial shaft fracture managed with our FAA-guided protocol, patients reach full weight bearing by week 6 with radiographic healing by week 12. A comparable patients managed with weight bearing accelerated reach full weight bearing by week 10 and radiographic healing by week 24. I know this is early, but it is exactly what our multicentral trials are designed to validate. At AOS, we confirmed real demand from surgeons and implant companies. Because resources are limited, we are focused on 1 hospital pilot, 1 active bundle pilot, and 1 strategic partnership pilot pathway. Beyond that, we already have 20 letters of intent, engagement with more than 30 hospitals, and early interest from major strategics. The business model is simple. Hospitals get extra RTM revenue and lower post-discharge risks. Private clinics get their money back in 5 patients and can make X3 over 2 years from each device. Implant partners can bundle or sponsor rental to improve outcomes and add value. Across all 3 channels, we have the same pricing: $3,500 for per choice, $100 per week for rent, and with just $350 cost to produce it. With existing RTM reimbursement, private clinics can earn about $266 in RTM revenue per patient on top of rental revenue. Hospitals can bill through the same workflow above the Medicare baseline. And the workflow is handled by PTs or care coordinators. Our platform can work across trauma, sports medicine, arthroplasty, and limb reconstruction. This is not one-time implant revenue. It creates recurring revenue through rentals, RTM, and partner channels. And it fits to the existing ecosystem without asking surgeons to change how they operate. We start with a focused market. Early adoption comes from innovator surgeons and out-of-pocket patients. As we generate clinical evidence, reimbursement unlocks first for the high-risk cases and expands by indication, opening a much larger market. This is how we create strategic value over the next 3 years. We build clinical proof through publication, multicentral data, and early deployments. We unlock reimbursement, which makes adoption repeatable, and we scale through hospital integrations and implant partner bundles. This is the path to strategic partnership and a potential exit. I built this company through product, regulatory, clinical trials, and manufacturing execution. Mike brings orthopedic go-to-market and scaling experience. Wida Glad brings world-class mechanobiology and bone healing expertise. That is the team scaling this category. Early adoption is PI and evidence-driven, concentrated at level 1 trauma. We are already there. The next inflection point is the NYU Langone publication. I have raised $3 million so far and now raising 1.6. This gives me 18 months to finish trials, launch paid RTM reimbursement, advance the new DME and HCPCS pathway, and deploy it in more than 3 hospital systems in the US. You might be asking yourself, wouldn't it be great if this guy has actual scientific evidence to prove the claims he made? Well, you are in luck. I'm happy to present it. You can reach me out after the presentation. Thank you.
I love it. Great presentation. Really, really cool. Panel, what questions do you have for Ilya?
I'll go ahead and start. I'm not muted. It's good to see you again. We were together on the MedTech Jam session with Mike D. I wanted to commend you because you've done a lot, and you've made some really, really good progress. The question I would have is this considered a DME product? You know, since crutches obviously are sort of kind of considered that in a way, I was just curious.
Thank you, Chris, for this great question. Yes, we all know that for the new medical device, a new HCPCS code is very difficult to obtain. And we are in luck. Yes, we are DME product, so for us, the level of evidence is much less that needed.
Okay. And the last question I had was, I know you're showing strategic partnerships and whatnot. As you talk to them, is there a leaning towards more of the product itself, or is it the data output, or is it both? And why?
Great question. Yes, it both. For example, Blue Ocean Global, it's like boutique external fixation manufacturer. We're already in discussion of our first pilot order for 20 pairs. His technology, his device is very expensive, and the cost of procedure is very expensive. Like, you know how much it costs limb lintering, for example. So they just want to put it and bundle it with our device, and it makes more sense for them in designing these implants, and also it makes their customers happier, hospitals and surgeons.
Excellent. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Robin, go ahead. We'll stay with our pattern here. How about that?
Go ahead.
So, all right, I'll jump. And gosh darn it, Chris, never let Chris go first because he always asks good questions. I was going to ask one of those. I guess I'm interested in understanding better your go-to-market strategy. And I look at what I see. advanced copy of the slides. Thank you, TJ. Slide 12. So who actually, maybe the best way to ask the question is, who actually holds title to the piece of equipment as it goes through the, sales and use and revenue generation pathway?
That was a great question, Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, I want to be honest with you. We are still in the process to figure it out the most efficient way. We will try different options. Option number one is the manufacturers would use their distributor chain and they will handle it. Option number two is DME. This is the most obvious option, DME providers. But DME providers would love to do this and to use our product when we will obtain reimbursement, not for the RTM, but for the device use as well, which we plan to get next year. And the third option is what I am doing right now. During our presentation, I've got 2 calls from surgeons at UT Health. They just call me and say, hey, we have a patient, could you set it up? And we do everything like that. So while we do this pilot, in a pilot phase, we do it like this. When we transition to the hospital execution, hospital will do it because they have their own technician, they have their own physical therapist who will educate patients how to place the right amount of weight, because they currently do it with the bathroom scales and it's not efficient. So yeah, we don't know what is the most efficient way, but we will figure it out very soon. Thank you for your question.
Great, thank you.
I tell you what, let me see if I understand this correctly. You get 300% better compliance, if that's right. You're supported by 3 studies, 31 surgeons, and 13 hospitals, and you're cheaper than a $2,000 bone stem system. Now, did I hear you correctly? Is that correct?
3500%, a little bit higher. Yes.
Oh, okay. I love this. Are you kidding me?
This is so cool.
This is like a freaking no-brainer. I mean, and your margins. I think I saw you were implying like 80 or 90% gross margins.
90%.
Yeah, I mean, where do I invest? I don't know. The only thing I would ask, same question Brian asked actually, is I think the distribution is probably where you're going to be doing a lot of your heavy lifting, but you got everything going for you on the product side, and I think you've thought this thing through pretty well. Okay, I have one question. This is it. This is the only question I've got. That's it. And it's this one. Could I use this on arthroplasty patients too?
Yes. My answer is there is only one type of patients who cannot use this device. The patients who are not able to keep balance when they use crutches. So just this patient is too heavy patients or too weak patients. This is the only limitation we have.
All right, listen. This is fantastic. I hope you got great IP, and boy, there's a lot of companies should scoop this up fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, regarding the
this is real good. I like it.
We already issued granted patents in the US, in Canada, in UK, Europe, and Ukraine.
Okay.
Nice.
So okay, what are you going to do after you sell this company? What do you have in mind? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I jump ahead too much? Oh, okay. Sorry. I already got you sold. I mean, we're done.
Yeah, I think a key thing here, is, really understanding the strategics and that you're zoned in on the most beneficial partnership, okay? Because you got something hot. In my opinion, I think it's important that you're really measuring and weighting what they're waiting, not waiting, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like this. What are your intentions with my daughter? I mean, that's the whole thing here. All right. Because number one, I don't want to see you get played. This is good stuff. And just kudos to you. So make sure you're clear about what partnership means.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, there is one of the discussion that we have with one of strategic. This strategic has a product called My Mobility. You probably know Persona IQ, and the idea is they already implemented this infrastructure in in many hospitals, but the only sport medicine surgeons use it just with one procedure. With our technology, we can integrate it, and they will expand the usage across trauma and foot and ankle surgeons and so on. So yes, this is a lot of opportunities, but a lot of depends on the clinical results that we are doing now. And hopefully we will finish these clinical trials by the end of the year and have the great data. And next year will be break even for us.
Great.
Just a couple closing comments on my part. I really like sort of the the trend towards the B2C types of things here that this captures. I think that's going to be a trend to watch as we continue to progress in the industry in the orthopedic space in particular. And then the second is, along the lines of what Chris had mentioned. I think that, to me, one of the things to be both wary and opportunistic about is you could describe it many different ways, but kind of bifurcating between those that might see opportunity in the hardware versus those that might see opportunity in the software and the data. And you might find a buyer that pays for the synergies of both. You might find different markets, for both, and where you can sort of sell one way, hold back, keep monetize, the other. And look, I think we all know, like your very honest answer, still, working on it, which is totally fair and appreciated. That the whole industry is saying, well, we're kind of working on it, on what the value of data is actually going to be, but there's a whole lot of folks, collecting it on the promise
and already starting to pay for it.
Well, and we're starting to see that start to come to bear fruit. So that I think there's a common belief that there's a gold mine there in that data, and thinking about that as a TBD is just fine. I think at this stage of the game. So kudos. I want to echo the plot. It's really not only to ComeBack mobility here, but all three. I think this has been a really strong.
Yes.
So yeah, really great.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your thoughts.
Yeah, well, Ilya, Dan, Raymond, thank you all for some great presentations tonight. Thanks to everyone who attended and tuned in. And Robin, Chris, and Brian, thanks for the wonderful questions. Stay tuned for the next event. It will be coming soon. Hope you all have a great rest of your evening. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.